podcast you're about to listen to will be discussing and spoiling movies throughout the duration of the show. It is also riddled with bad language, so if that's not your thing, well, we tried to warn you.
Stop where you are. You don't know what you're doing.
I know what I'm doing, all right. Come on, get hold of him. Lock him up.
All right, you fools. You brought it on yourselves. Everything would have come right if you'd only left me alone. You've driven me near madness with your peering through the keyholes and peeping through the curtains. And now you'll suffer for it. You're crazy to know who I am, aren't you? All right, I'll show you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Monster Madness, a podcast dedicated to all sorts of creature features. My name is Erika Gwynn, and I am here to welcome you to our very professional podcast. Join with me are two fellows who would no doubt go insane and try to kill me if they accidentally turned invisible. We have Daniel Gwynn.
Hey.
And Matt Stein.
You can call me the Cum Lord. An ad popped up for Cum Lord, and I'm like, that's my name now.
Are you watching porn already?
No, I just had Facebook is up.
That just says, I mean, they are targeted ads, so.
I believe it is a video game streamer. This picture's a puppy.
Okay.
What is? I'm very confused right now. Someone I work with that would never ever be into something like dark comedy, likes the Cum Lord page.
There you go. Speaking of like just pornography in general, earlier today we were watching Invisible Man, and I look over at Dan, and I can kind of like see his phone, and I just see what looks very phallic. I'm like, what the fuck are you looking at? And he turns to me, and it's just like a Snapchat he got of his friend's like weird ass looking finger that had a splinter in it.
He had this huge splinter. It was like an inch and a quarter
his
long.
friend has dick fingers. I'm just saying.
I'm like dick pics, babe. That's what I'm looking at.
It was very concerning. I was like, what are you looking at?
That's funny.
I mean, if you wanted to look at them, it's fine, but I'm just saying. Anyway, before we get into this episode, some plugs as per usual. You can find Monster Madness on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, as well as all other obscure social media platforms. We just joined Slasher. Matt's been on there for a while, doesn't really use it, because, you know, he's not really a social media guy.
I'm pretty bad at it.
Social butterfly.
Dan, on the other hand, went on a mass friend. You can follow him at Monster Mad Dan. And I just run the Monster Madness podcast one. So if you see the logo, that's us. Please interact. We're having a really good time on it. But yeah. I digress. There are a few ways you can support our show for the cost of nothing except a few minutes of your time. You can head on over to Apple Podcasts and give the show a rating and review. That helps others find the show, and it is greatly appreciated as always, unless you attack Matt's love of raviolis.
I just don't understand. All I did was make my way for ravioli and talk about it with emphasis on the internet.
I hope this gets us another 1 star. Why the fuck do they keep talking about raviolis?
Fucking ravioli boy.
You know what? I need to make, because I just made friend of the show, Seth, a little shirt for TeePublic. I need to make you a ravioli boy shirt. Yes.
Cool. I can't wait.
I know. It's going to be #1 seller. You can speaking of which, you can also buy merch at teepublic.com or become a Patreon. There's a bunch of tiers. I add and change them all the time, but it's fun. Yeah, so I guess you're probably wondering why this episode is appearing in your queue just at a random moment in time. Whenever I'm done editing it, I'm pretty much just going to straight up load it. But way back when we did season 1, we were doing Universal Monsters versus their modern adaptations. We saw that Invisible Man was coming out in 2020, so we decided to hold off on it. So now you're going to get a triple dose of Monster Madness this week. And so, without much further ado, not tonight, because you could listen to this show at any time of the day. On this episode, we are covering 1933's The Invisible Man.
Very soon now, the secret of invisibility lies there in my books. I shall work in Kent's laboratory till I find the way back. There is a way back, Flora, and then I shall come to you. I shall offer my secret to the world with all its terrible power. The nations of the world will bid for it, thousands, millions. The nation that wins my secret can sweep the world with invisible armies.
So, like I said, this movie came out in 1933. It was written by H.G. Wells, and the screenplay was R.C. Sheriff. Some contributing writers were Preston Sturgis, good on him, Claude Rains played the Invisible Man, Gloria Stewart, William Harrigan, Henry Travers. Claude Rains was in a couple other Universal Monster movies, and Gloria Stewart is a really popular actress. You'd probably know her if you saw her. It was directed by James Whale. And yeah, some taglines for this film were "Catch me if you can!" ! Not horrible. Not horrible. H.G. Wells's fantastic sensation. H.G. Wells' fantastic out-of-this-world show. Not liking those. And finally, you'll hardly believe what your eyes won't see.
I like that one.
I like that one too. That one's not bad.
That's a good one.
All right, Matt. Hit me with the budget.
$328,033.
I was going to say 3,000.
Damn. How'd they make that boy invisible?
Well, in 1933, 3,000 is probably a lot of money.
Here, are we going to hear the clickety-clacks of an inflation calculator?
Yeah, I'm trying. I got to get the inflation calculator.
Times it by, carry the 1.
Let's see, enter. So 3,019. Oh my god. Oh wow, that's actually way less than I thought it would be.
I want to go with probably equals to $10,000.
How would it equal less?
No, he's saying 3,000.
Oh, I don't know.
3,000 equals 10.
60.
60,000?
Yeah.
That's what $3,000 was back then?
Yep.
I'd be so rich.
Man, wish I had $3,000.
We always talk about this, that we'd be so rich back then.
The budget equates to about $6.5 million right now.
That's a relatively cheap movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even for today's standards. So, I'm just going to get right into it because this is a fun little bonus episode. We're not doing anything. No real flair with this one. We're not even doing Questions of the Damned because there's really no point since season 1 is already wrapped up. So, this is kind of just a little bonus episode for you because we love you guys so much. So, according to Wikipedia, because they can write way better than I can, on a snowy night, a stranger, his face swathed in bandages. First of all, swathed. That's a 4-point vocab word right there. And his eyes obscured by dark goggles, takes room at the Lion's Head Inn in the English village of Ipping in Sussex. Sorry if I mispronounced it. Any of those things, English folk.
Do you think it looked odd?
Do I think a man swathed in bandages looks odd?
Yeah, wasn't it snowing?
Yes, it was.
So you could have been like, maybe he's trying to cover up. He had a long journey.
Well, you can tell that it's bandages. It's not like it's like a scarf. It's straight up bandages. He looks like he got burned in a fire.
Spoiler alert, they eventually were like, what happened to him?
Yeah, they're like, what
Trying to figure
the hell's up with it? Well, because he's weird anyway. But anyway, I digress. Or Wikipedia digresses. The man demands that he be left alone. Weird sign number 1. Later, the innkeeper, Mr. Hall, is sent by his wife to evict the stranger after he makes a huge mess in his room while doing research and falls behind on his rent. Angered, the strangers throw Mr. Hall, the stranger, not plural, throws Mr. Hall down the stairs. Confronted by a policeman and some local villagers, he removes his bandages and goggles, revealing that he is invisible, not invincible. Laughing manically, he takes off his clothes, making himself completely undetectable, and drives off his tormentors before fleeing into the countryside. He did go a little crazy, right off the bat.
Yeah, I thought it was a good start to a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty cool that he was seamlessly invisible because, 1933.
How'd they do that?
It had to do with something he was, they shot him separately and he's wearing full black velvet against a black velvet background. And they just kind of inserted him. It's a cat. Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
It is, but it paid off. He was invisible. So the stranger is Dr. Jack Griffin, a chemist who has discovered the secret of invisibility. While conducting a series of tests involving an obscure drug called monocaine, Flora Cranley, Griffin's fiancée and the daughter of Griffin's employer, Dr. Cranley, becomes distraught over Griffin's long absence. Cranley and his other assistant, Dr. Kemp, search Griffin's empty laboratory, finding only a single note in a cupboard. Cranley becomes concerned when he reads it. On the note is a list of chemicals including the drug monocaine, which Cranley knows is extremely dangerous. An injection of it drove a dog mad in Germany. Griffin, it seems, is unaware of this. Cranley deduces that he may have learned about monocaine in English books printed before the incident that described only its bleaching power. So basically, he bleached his skin to the point that he was just completely, you can't see him anymore.
I thought they said it also turns you black. As dark as night, the color.
Maybe that was just like a phrase, like, oh, it turns you as dark as night. Like you're like a shadow, maybe? Because you would see him if he was just like this solid or like this human
I thought
black
it meant like
shape.
it welted, because you went on a tangent about it welting flowers.
I gotta be honest with you.
and-
I've played this movie in the background and watched it fully start to finish like once or twice, and I literally cannot retain the middle of it. I have seen I know what happens in the beginning. The middle is completely muddled, and then I know exactly what happens at the end. The middle is just, and it's only 68 minutes long.
Oh.
It's not that I didn't like it. It's just I literally cannot retain it. So maybe I didn't like it, but I digress.
That was the part I remember.
The middle, like I'm reading this, I'm like, what movie was I watching? But so on the evening of his escape from the inn, Griffin turns up at Kemp's home. He forces Kemp to become his visible partner in a plot to dominate the world through a reign of terror, commencing with a few murders here and there. Now, my question to you both is, if you accidentally chemically bleached yourself to the point where you could not be seen anymore, would you go on a murder spree? Would that be your first thing?
Probably not.
No. I don't want to murder someone. Like, I don't think I could really do it.
Well, I'm glad.
If push came to shove and I was defending myself, that's one thing, but I wouldn't just, like, I've never been so mad at someone to be like, you know what, I think I'm going to murder.
I mean, you threatened me enough.
That is... It's not true.
Insert gunshot. I would okay, so here's my thing. I've always said that if I ever got like any like monochrome power of sorts, like even just like a little bit of something, I probably would be corrupt in some point. But I don't think I would jump like immediately go to my like visible partner, quote unquote, and be like, look, we're gonna murder a bunch of fucking people.
Well,
I'd be like, how about we?
Well, he wanted to make him invisible too.
But here's the thing: why wouldn't you be like, look, I'm gonna rob a bank and we're gonna live like fucking kings? Like, just fucking steal from the rich. I'd be Robin Hooding that shit.
Damn ass kings. Yeah, I would definitely steal all sorts of stuff. Although, if you're invisible, the TV you're stealing is not invisible.
It's floating.
You're like, what the fuck is? Why are all those cheese curds just bopping away?
You just see them disappear.
Yeah, exactly. And then just like
He
boiling
said,
in acid.
Yeah,
stomach
he said
acid.
you still see all that.
Oh yeah, he's like, I cannot go out until an hour after I eat, even the dirt under my fingernails, like all that crap. I'm like, calm down, dude. Nobody's looking that deep at floating dirt. Anyway,
Wow.
back home, Kemp calls first Cranley asking for help and then the police. Flora persuades her father to let her come along. In her presence, Griffin becomes more placid and calls her darling. When he realizes that Kemp has betrayed him, his first reaction is to get Flora away from danger. After promising Kemp that at 10 o'clock the next night he will murder him, Griffin escapes and goes on a killing spree. He causes the derailment of a train, resulting in 100 deaths, and throws 2 volunteer searchers off a cliff. The police offer a reward for anyone who can think of a way to catch him.
All right.
Okay.
This part I had a problem with.
What
So, I know we're married, but if we were engaged,
Okay.
we're still dating, and then you're like, oh, where'd my boyfriend go? He went off and murdered 100 people. It's just the medicine. Like, you would not be chasing after me.
No, because
or you wouldn't speak to me ever again.
I don't think I can say on like how you would act if you were invisible and we were like in our dating phase. You'd be such a perv. You'd be like, I'm already naked.
I am a gentleman.
Yeah. You hear that? You hear that, Mom? I can't even. Maybe for like our X-rated Patreon exclusives.
We have those?
Yeah, they're $1,000 a month.
Oh. Okay.
Anyway, Griffin seeks shelter from a snowstorm in a barn. A farmer hears snoring and sees the hay in which Griffin is sleeping, and it is moving. The man notifies the police. The police surround the building and set fire to the barn. When Griffin comes out, the chief detective sees his footprints in the snow and open fires, mortally wounding him. Griffin is taken to the hospital where, on his deathbed, he admits to Flora that I meddled in things that man must leave alone. As he dies, his body gradually becomes visible again.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's the thing I don't get. Why would his body become visible again? Like, if he literally bleached himself to the point where he was invisible, why?
Maybe the blood has something to do with blood. Like, does he still bleed?
Or it wears off.
Is it invisible
You made me
blood?
bleed my own blood?
So, like, maybe it only affects the outer layers of skin. So when you shed dead skin, you shed the bleach.
Well, no, because when he eats, you can see the food digesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know then.
I thought maybe they gave him medicine. That's what I was kind of like, he's in the hospital, medicine.
No, it's like when he died, and that's the only time you ever see like the Invisible Man's face, which is Claude Rains.
Oh, I think I know why. Because when they said, when they were doing this stuff to the flowers and the animals and stuff, they said when they died, they turned different colors.
Okay.
I'm telling you, the guy went into
It could have been something they wrote in just so that they could show Claude Rains' face because he was such a popular actor at the time and that's what he wanted.
Okay,
Oh.
Mr. Logic.
Maybe.
What?
The last
Sorry.
thing you see,
Sorry.
just that beautiful face dying.
Or maybe they had to do it to prove that it was really him. I don't know. I mean, you could call someone from 1933 and ask.
They're probably all dead.
Most likely.
Yeah, apparently, because I didn't do Questions of the Damned for this because I figured it'd just be a quick little bonus, like, oh, we talked about it, blah, 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 and kind of rounds out, all the Universal, like, monster heavy hitters because it's always, like, Dracula, Frankenstein, Creature, Mummy, Invisible Man. So, Claude Rains is only picked, not only, but he was picked mainly because of how he, like, enunciated everything, like, so clearly, and you had to do that when you have all these bandages over your face. It's kind of hard.
Oh, yeah. I guess they couldn't really overdub his speaking.
Not really.
Or, I mean, maybe they could in the 30s. I don't, but yeah, okay. Because I did think about that.
All of his dialogue, that probably would have been... he did have a little slip, but they've had to have someone who was going to, like, be able to bellow really clearly, so they didn't have to do, like, a lot of extra work. And Claude Rains, actually, I think he lived in Pennsylvania. I think he died around, near Pittsburgh, I want to say. I might be wrong about that, so don't quote me. But he took his daughter to see, like, a re-release of this, like, in the 50s in, like, a Pennsylvania theater. And nobody in the theater watched the movie because he was, like, explaining stuff to her, and they recognized the voice. They're like, holy fuck, you're Claude Rains. And instead, they literally all turned around and just listened to him talk about each scene, which I thought that was really cool. Because he was, like, really a popular actor.
He died in New Hampshire.
Then where the hell did I get Pennsylvania?
I don't know. I bet you, though, there was one guy in that theater who was like, shut up!
I paid good money for these tickets.
He owned a farm in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. So maybe I was right. I don't know. This isn't really a factual show. Okay, so if you look at, like, all the Universal Monster ones, like all the classics, where do you think this, like, ranks among them? Do you think it deserves to be in the top 5, or do you think it's kind of just meh? Because you got Frankenstein, Dracula, Mummy, Wolfman, this guy. And this one came out right around, 1933 came out, right, or like 2 years after Dracula and Frankenstein. Came out before Wolfman, came out before Creature.
I don't know.
Came out after Mummy.
I don't really, like, foresee him as, like, a universal monster or creature because it's man-made. Like all the other guys, even though, like, Frankenstein was man-made, it has more of, like, that horror to it.
Yeah, he is human beings can be monsters, so.
Yeah.
It's true.
But, I don't know. It was also very shortly lived. Like, this all happened in, like, a week, maybe.
Yeah, to a degree. I think he was, like on the lam for a while, but his, like, whole, like, plan of, like, oh, let's kill a shit ton of people for world domination,
Yeah.
sure.
He doesn't have, like, the lore to his name. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, and, like, when we first did season 1, I was looking at, like, modern adaptations, and they were all kind of lame. Like, you have Hollow Man, which is, I remember that scaring me as a kid just because Kevin Bacon freaks me out. We already talked about that in Tremors. But then there was one with Chevy Chase and Daryl Hannah, which I forgot about until recently. I can't even remember what it's called, but he becomes, like, an invisible man, but it's more of, like, a romance, so it didn't really count. And I know you would have loathed it, Matt, so I kind of threw you a bone there.
Thanks.
I did make you watch Shape of Water, so...
That was a good movie.
Not in Matt's eyes. It had everything he hated. A love story, music, and just existing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm not going to drag this episode out super long. It is a quick little bonus for you guys, so it is probably going to be on the shorter side. So before we end this one and move on to probably the longer one, which would be the 2020 Invisible Man, you happy you watched it? Would you watch it again? Hit me with it. I'll go with Matt first.
You know my answer. No and no. I never want to watch this movie again.
Well, I appreciate that you watched it kind of the first time around.
Well, I mean, didn't know how bad it was until I watched it.
True. What about you, Dan?
I actually like this. I mean, like, I wouldn't probably go out of my way to turn it on, but if I walked in the room and it's on, I probably like would, look and watch for a little bit. But like, it's easy to jump in and out of this movie.
For sure.
It's not like I want to watch every full whatever 60 minutes of it is.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm kind of like in the middle between both of you. Like, I didn't dislike it, but I also didn't like it in comparison to the other ones we watched. Like, this one and The Mummy are kind of like my throwaway Universal monster movies that I'm like, yeah, I get why they're there, but at the same time, I'm not like a huge fan. I'd rather watch Creature or Wolfman or Dracula.
To me, this is better than The Mummy and Wolfman.
How can...
But
all right, we're not gonna go backwards. We only go forwards in this podcast. Fuck you, hate Wolfman. Yeah, I didn't dislike it. I'm happy that I watched it to kind of round out my knowledge, because I think my dad really likes this one. I actually have to talk to him about it, but I know he thinks Claude Rains is like the coolest guy ever. But not mad that I watched it. If it's on TV, I'm not gonna like, throw my remote at it, but it's not something I'm gonna probably like selectively like be like, oh, I really want to watch. But the really cool thing about this movie is doing like research and stuff like that, and like just seeing people in the horror community. The fan art for this movie is way better than the actual movie. I'm gonna post a link in the show notes to this one piece of art that I saw that was really cool. But yeah, that was this quick little bonus episode of Monster Madness. Thank you so much for listening. See you on the next one.
Goodbye.
I'll show you who I am and what I am.
Look, he's all eaten away.
How do you like that, eh?